All right, I've been waiting for this moment for like probably over 4 years now. So finally, Anu, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series.
Yay, I'm so honored to finally make it here. Thank you for having me.
Well, you deserved it before. It just took us long enough to get you here. That's the thing. So this will be fantastic. I think everybody will super enjoy it. It's awesome to see you again. And the best place to start, as always, is if you could briefly introduce yourself, not about business. Tell
Yes,
us, who is Anu? Where are you from
yes,
originally? Where are you now? Family, favorite color, maybe something
sure.
you've never told anybody and you want to reveal it to the world right now. Stuff like that. And then put your face a little lower so we see you in the camera.
Is that better?
Go for
Great.
it.
So my name is Anu Bhardwaj. I am Arya's mom. Let's start there. And I have a lovely 13-year-old daughter. And um, I currently live in Jupiter, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a residence in Puerto Rico. So I'm technically Puerto Rican at this moment in time. I have a resident official like card. I'm gonna share this with you. This is so legit. This just happened this past year. Driver's license and
Yay.
yeah, everything's all legit, so it's great. Um, I have been I have been moving around the world for 4 decades now.
I know.
That's something that, most people don't know about me is that I've spent my life across Asia, Europe, North America, almost equally at this point. And I speak Swedish. That's something that people don't know.
That's something people would never guess.
They would never guess. They're looking at me, but I studied in Sweden. I got my MBA there at the Stockholm School of Economics. Um, I was a Fulbright scholar to IIT Mumbai.
No.
No one would have guessed that part either, that I'm a
Well,
techie.
I don't know. They might have guessed that.
Okay. But the Swedish, definitely not. That would
Yeah.
not have been the first thing that comes to your mind.
So
Uh,
why Florida? How did you end up in Florida?
I ended up in Florida because Aria ended up in Palm Beach Gardens with her father before COVID. And she said, Mom, I really want you to come here. And luckily, no one knew what was going to happen with the world and with the pandemic. But, I sold my house in Laguna Beach and moved out there to be with my child who was in first grade at the time. And when the pandemic happened, she had just started third grade. And so we were lucky that I had made that move because, all the flights were like very difficult at the time. No one knew what was going to happen. And I was home, so I got to homeschool her. So it all worked out.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know you love her dearly because you've talked about her a lot of times, and stuff. So good for you. So speaking of her as a kid, what were you like as a kid or a teenager? Were you a girly girl or were you a tomboy? Did you organize friends together for special causes? Did you play sports, music? What were you like?
So I was super active as a kid, like just everywhere, like highly energetic, which I still am.
Yeah.
Very high energy child and made a lot of friends wherever I went. Um, just, saw the world as a wonderful place, and I still do to a
Hmm.
large extent. And really not concerned about people's evil intentions, like unassuming and unaware. So, you have some kids that are really shy and, afraid. I was just not one of those. Like, I was ready to make friends with everybody. And, I just didn't sit still waiting for things to happen. I made them happen. And I think that was a good quality until I got to kindergarten. And I recall once I got to kindergarten, I didn't speak the language. I didn't speak English. So I was trying to communicate with these 4-year-olds. They had no idea what I was talking about. And then I started to just get really frustrated. And vivid recollection was that I finally just learned English because I was forced to learn English. And I remember getting home and getting really annoyed with my parents because they wouldn't give me things unless I spoke to them in English. So
Mm.
it went from speaking only Telugu with everybody I knew from birth till I got to the United States. And then when I started speaking in school, it just like it was one of these things that I remember was very frustrating. But I think it came in handy later because picking up other languages became a lot easier for me because I had to do it as a kid and not speaking any English at all. So,
It's interesting you say that because I think studies have shown that young kids that learn languages early are behind others, but then they zoom ahead of others. So it's the kind of like the investment to do it and take the time, but then and then you like kind of catapults you ahead of the other kids later. Just have to make sure that the kid doesn't get traumatized by during that period of being behind learning the
yeah.
languages. So, pretty cool. Tell us a little bit about, you talked about, all your studies, some of your studies and whatnot. So tell us a little bit of your journey in this aspect. You were Georgetown to Singapore to like Stockholm, India, obviously. I'm trying to figure out you were arts and communication, entrepreneurship, VCW. I mean, you got the whole gambit going there. What
Yeah.
intrigued you to take that path of education?
Um, I think it had to do with intrigue and curiosity. Like, I really just loved art history when I was in college. It was non-traditional. It's not something that most Indian like brown girls study. It's mostly a science, math, or something in that direction. And I had very traditional, or I still do. I have traditional South Indian parents. And for them, it was really important that, I take sciences, and it was almost like a prerequisite to even go to college, is like, if I don't see your math and science on your transcript, I'm not sending you to school. Literally, it happened once. And I
Oh,
had actually switched over to the School of Foreign Service, and they were like, we just saw like what we're paying for, and this is not what we're paying for. And unless you go back to this, you're not going back to school. And so I was just like, okay, then I'll just do chemistry, organic, whatever. So I did it, and my love really at the time was fine art. And I have a degree in art, music, and theater with a concentration in biochemistry, which makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So
well, I don't know. It could, maybe, I'm not sure.
I can synthesize aspirin if I need to. So let's leave it
Right.
at that. Like if it's necessary, I can make it for both of us if we need it. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, exactly. And I've also done gross anatomy, so we can kind of fix ourselves, but not really. Yeah, it's one of those things. Um, and then where I wanted to take this art history degree, and people would ask me these questions all the time, is what are you going to do with that? Well, you can do anything you want with it. It's about learning so many languages and cultures and history. And for me, it was like really getting a sense of just appreciating the beauty in life. And it was beyond the art, it was the beauty, right?
Sure.
And I just fell in love with the subject, and I just loved all the galleries, and I would have, all my study sessions at the gallery, and I just had a beautiful way of learning. And that's what it came down to. No matter what I studied, I just had to make it beautiful. And when I was in graduate school, I had applied for a Fulbright. This is something people don't know about me. I had applied for a Fulbright to study Indian contemporary art.
Hmm.
And this was before it was all fashionable. And I was like, this is the next hottest thing, like Indian contemporary art. It wasn't very well known. At the time, it was Japanese contemporary art, if you remember, like all the big,
Yeah.
galleries in Tokyo and all. And I was like, no, 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 it's India, it's emerging markets, it's coming. This is pre Y2K. And I had written this proposal. Um, I was pretty confident I was going to go to India and go study all these masters. And long story short, the gallery burned down because the artist was Muslim and he had painted this goddess naked. And all of our goddesses are naked to a certain extent. But they were clothed at the same time. If you look at temple sculptures and all, they're like, oh, this is this goddess. And
Yeah.
that's how they depicted them. And they wrap them up in clothes now. But I mean, if you look at the statues, they're there.
Yeah.
So he got in big trouble, and Fulbright Commission said, you're not going to India because there's like a big problem right now and you want to study this artist and it's not happening. So I applied for Georgetown Graduate School and ended up getting a full scholarship to go back. And I just loved Washington. And I just kept winning more and more scholarships, about $500,000 in scholarships and grants.
Well,
Kept winning and went all over the world. And this skill came in really handy because when I was starting my innovation during pandemic, we won about $750,000 in non-dilutive capital from just grants and things like that. So my education has been across the board. Everything has been, since graduate school, has been on scholarships and awards. And even in Sweden, I had my MBA covered, full scholarship, and then the Fulbright to India. So I'm just one of these, lifelong learners, just
well, I
passionate
think
about.
yeah, I think it's an example for everybody. And you know what I learned a long time ago was and I had a conversation with another executive recently, how he had a mentor that was showing him all sorts of artifacts and Mozart music and all sorts of things. The more we know where things are derived from, the more impact we can have out there. Because do you have a foundation where things come from, rather than just making it up, or that's not really a way of putting it even. But so I think that became even more valuable for you when you were looking at the art and how just how are things derived, because how things are derived turns into critical thinking generally, and critical thinking is so important. It's going to be one of the more important things ever, including AI that's happening now. So yeah, good for you. I'm glad you shared that. The other thing you've been an early leader on, and it kind of relates to why Fifth Element was created. We were created on the premise that leaders and their organizations will always do better when they're doing good at the same time. And
Awesome.
you gained a lot of global experiences and knowledge, which allowed you to helping entrepreneurs, women investing in women, for example, and on women-centric podcast, which we'll get into a little bit too. But was this the career journey that you envisioned with all this going on, or kind of, sort of, or wow, what happened?
What happened was I had a choice. When I came out of college, my father, remember, asked me, he said, you have two choices. You can either get married or go to medical school if you're under my roof. And I remember saying to him, well, I really want a third choice, which is I need to go out there and figure out how to change the world. But I can't do it unless I understand it first. I need to go out there and see what it is. Like, I'm not going to find it in this little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on this journey and I won all these scholarships, and I went from Borneo to Tibet overland, meetings with shamans, healers, and monks, working with pediatric HIV. Really got to see the world, really got to see the kids, really got to see the people. 85% of the world does not have access to primary care. 85% of the world hasn't seen a doctor. 1.2 billion women have not seen a doctor because they can't afford it. Right. And when we have certain things like the pandemic, it hits us and says, oh my gosh, we're all going to die because if they get sick, I get sick.
Right.
That's the case even now. Right. So the thing about this back then is this was my foundation for life. And I said, this journey that I'm going on is going to lead me to what I need to be doing here. And I went with very little money. I was living on I was living on kindness, and it worked. Love and kindness. I'm not kidding. It was just
Does
literally,
work.
it was how it worked. And I didn't have a huge budget. I didn't have an expense account. I didn't have all these people taking rolling it out for me. I just really had to go and figure out how the rest of the world lived. And when I did, my eyes were completely open. And that's the kind of vision that you need in order to change the world, which I have still.
Yeah, I noticed that the first time I met you. You continue to. I know that for a fact. I
Thank
also know that, well, ARFA was launched on International Women's Day, and
Right.
I wanted to ask you, which I ask other women all the time also, we always partner with leaders who care, if you will, that value diversity. And diversity isn't just color. There's a whole lot of other things that go into that. And equal access to opportunity is, comes along with that too. Can you describe your journey when you're going all around the world as a woman in a world of totally diverse partnerships, businesses, cultures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so many things. How did you manage to navigate, in addition to kindness, and thrive on the initiatives, the things you wanted to do, and see the impact you could make, and still it would be both economic and social impact at the same time?
So this is a bit challenging because sometimes you do things and they don't have an economic impact, and sometimes you do something, you create programs and it has an economic impact, but it's not the social impact. And for what we have been working on, it's been I won't lie, it's been like decades of work to get to where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many people that have come along the way, and we didn't always get it right, exactly right. We didn't get it always exactly wrong. So it was just trying to find this balance to the point where you say, this is it, we've got it, we've nailed it, let's go. And that happened sitting at the kitchen table where I am now, talking to you. This is the magic table. I'm not kidding. Like, I have done amazing things sitting at this table, and we came up with what we were building, and it was like, this is it. We got to go as fast as we can and get it. And that's
So
where we're at.
let me pause you there and come back a second. When you're traveling around the world
Yes.
as a woman
Yes.
of color, um,
Yes.
in some areas where women are clearly second class, if not below, you're doing it on kindness. I mean, some of it had to be really hard.
I would say yes. I would say there were certain places where I felt, you know, I felt nervous, very nervous. And I would say the majority of the time, it was a learning, like it was a learning journey the whole time.
Yeah.
And you can't pay to go on these things. And let's say I'm going to an overwater bungalow in the South Pacific, I wouldn't be experiencing this kind of life, or a Michelin star. That could have been my world easily, always, and it was for a long period of time. But that's not how you're going to change the world.
Right.
So I had to go out there. I had to go see it. I had to go do it, live it, and be one of them. This is the most important thing, is unless you become one of them, you can't serve them the way they need to be served.
Yeah, you got to know what it feels like in their shoes, and people respect people that really either at least listen really, really hard, actively, or they've been there. So that's one of the things I was impressed when I first met you about what you've navigated through. It's really fantastic. So way to go on that. I want to get to the podcast and stuff. The fourth industrial revolution is all about technology, effectively. Now, especially AI, and it's moving so fast. The fifth, though, is about humanity and how they can come together. We always focus on, impact and talent, and
Yeah.
to get enduring results. Share about your experiences, your accomplishments that, number one, gave you the strong foundation and passion and interest in creating women investing in women, in creating digital women investing in women, digital, and creating SHEQONOMI as well. What was your vision? What's your vision for the future, and the impact that you're seeing by lifting up women, and even bringing them together for benefit of so many?
Thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate the question first and foremost, and the ability for you to ask and listen as intently as you have, to pay attention to like what this journey has been since I last saw you. So through the whole period of the past year since lockdown, I've been building a mobile app, podcast listening app focused on amplifying the voices of women. What does that mean? It's an app that has over 3,000 female podcasters, voices of female podcasters, and individuals like yourself who are amplifying the voices of women also are welcome. And what we've done is we have curated this content into different topics, SDGs, UN sustainable goals like climate change, women's health, entrepreneurship, investing, technology, leadership, children's health, financial literacy, all kinds of topics. And we've also curated them according to languages and meta tagged them according to interests. And this is now included in a web directory that you can access from any phone, anywhere. And we also have apps built on Android phones, like your Samsungs, or you have iPhones with your iOS. We have them on your dumb phones even, like your Vodafones and Nokias and your flip phones, if you remembered those from back in the day. We have them on a new phone called Geo, which is all over India, on television sets. We have them on soon on $100 laptops that are coming to go into the villages for the kids that didn't go to school. We have them on low-cost mobile devices, $15 phones in 195 countries. This is truly a game changer, just by nature of the accessibility. For 30% of the world, it still doesn't have access to mobile phones. 50% of the world lives on less than $5 a day. I've met many of them traveling across Asia when I did. And now we're at a point where we have all this content. We're getting another 30,000 podcasts that we're going to be curating. English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Tagalog, Hindi, Bahasa. We have a whole bunch. And you can see them right there. They're all right there.
Sweet.
And so all of this has been curated, and we can put the links in the drop-down menu below so people can check it out later. And we have started, where was the journey with this now? Okay, so yes, so now what we've done is we have engaged a partner who is going to take this content in these localized languages and convert them into English with AI. When that happens and you can get them on a low-cost device, they can start learning from each other, and we can start learning from them. So far, it's been us talking to them and they listen on their phones. But what happens when they talk to us and we finally listen?
I'm so glad you mentioned that. It's such a great point. Because we always think, we can show people the better way of doing things.
Correct.
And maybe we can in some aspects,
Mhm.
but there's so much we don't know. And somebody once said, I don't know who knows how many Einsteins are out there that are not allowing to bloom, basically, men, women, little boys, little girls, and whatnot. So that's a fantastic point that you make there, that we can learn from them too.
Yeah. So this is the guiding light from day one, is why are we building this on smartphones when we've had apps like Spotify or iHeart or Pandora that have left all these people in the dark? And they're not on these dumb phones, because if they were, I wouldn't have to go out and build one. And when you're in the middle of a pandemic and these people can't read and they don't have TVs and their kids are being sold or they're being trafficked or they're being married off, what do? Do you just sit there and say, I'm worried about my Netflix or my Papa John's or whatever? I mean, what do you do? This just blows my mind. And their kids can't go to school, but yours can. I mean, is that right? And then another generation disappears, and then you wonder, like, can we stop this? Well, we're stopping it now, and this will, as long as we have our devices, our directories, our tech, our phones, they have hope and they have a chance. So at this point in time, SHEQONOMI is all about podcasts for the bottom billion. Let's start with the moms' voices and the women's voices. And yeah, everyone else is going to jump in and say, we can support this as well. But we wanted to start with the women first. Everyone else is welcome too, but I wanted to really make sure that the women get heard. And that's why we started it.
Yeah, way to go. I think women and moms
Correct.
save the whole world, right? Actually.
Exactly. You nailed it. So this is exactly why we exist, and why we will continue going as far as we can in my lifetime.
Super cool. There's an organization, Million Peacemakers, that has a program called Nonflict, which I'm very engaged in, and they're doing a whole huge initiative to train 250 million young people, and Million Peacemakers Youth is actually run by young women right now. And so we'll talk about it. It should be pretty cool to get engaged on that too. That's fantastic. In LA, we say leave them wanting more so we can do a sequel, which apparently
Yay!
I have to do. But I want to ask you one last question on this part. We talked about the pandemic a little bit before, and I remember a client told me a couple of years back, he said, the year 2020 was the year that flew by slowly. And I thought, what a crazy line. And sometimes it feels like the pandemic was yesterday, and sometimes it feels like it was years ago. And then now we're in 2024 already. Crazy time. With all that said, what are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
I am most grateful that we all made it out okay. Me and you and the ones that we love that are still here. I'm very grateful for that because a lot of people did not make it. And I remember watching small children burning their parents. They couldn't burn their parents. They didn't have firewood. They were so poor.
Right.
And back then it was like we made it out okay. And with the war that's happening now, and my heart breaks every time I watch it, and like anything like to do with it, to the point where I actually just got rid of the TV. I don't have a TV in my house anymore because I can't bear it. Like to see how much how much horror there is in the world right now. And what am I most hopeful for is also the same answer. It's you and me and my daughter Arya, who's like, build the app. We need to build this for other people. So if we have that in our children, and that kindness, that care, compassion, that's beyond us, beyond anyone near us, and if we've already instilled that in the next generation, that's hope. And I'm just hopeful that, all these people grateful that all these people that have come forward to help us and support us, moms sitting at home in their houses, dads supporting us, just good humans. Like that's all we need to really change the world. And I'm hopeful for that because there are good people.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Not even close. Thanks for sharing that and sharing all that you've accomplished and exciting things still to come. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.